like, don't feel
okay. Yeah.
to keep going. So
I mean, I have about half an hour, so we're good.
oh, perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Loman. I am the owner of Ripple Effect Community Fitness in St. Paul Midway. We're going to talk about inclusivity in the fitness space today. So it's a really hot topic, especially in the kind of CrossFit world right now. So I wanted to talk with one of the people that I respect the most in this realm and who I kind of see as like the face of inclusivity, like their gym. When I think of inclusivity and fitness in the Twin Cities, I think of Solcana. So hi, Hannah. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Hannah Wydeven. I'm the owner of Solcana Fitness. We've been open for about 6.5-ish years. So, yeah. And I used to work at a couple of other different gyms in the Twin Cities before.
Awesome. That's cool. So, yeah, Hannah and I had probably met at some point before over all the years.
I think so, because
you look really
I remember, I remember meeting all the owners like of Sabretooth before, but I just, it's hard when you're kind of in your own little bubble as an owner. You spend like so many hours every day thinking about your business that it's hard to like reach out and connect with other business owners because you're all in the same boat.
For sure. And then fast forward to, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, probably, whenever this was, Hannah and I both happened to be on a Zoom call with CrossFit HQ and everything, kind of the weekend that the schism happened, whatever you want to call it, the CrossFit meltdown. I did this whole thing. So anyway, we kind of through happenstance we're kind of reacquainted and now are working towards some common goals with anti-racism and inclusivity in fitness, which is pretty cool. So can you tell us a little bit more about Solcana? So let's start with this. What does inclusivity mean to you in a gym, as a gym owner?
I feel like sometimes the words like diversity and inclusivity can be kind of like watered down. And so it's important for me to think about it as broadly as I can. Like inclusivity doesn't just mean like, oh, you're welcome to join the party, but it actually means like changing the way that you represent yourself and who represents you and who you let have a voice and who you amplify so that the people that come in feel like they're reflected back in the community and not just being like, well, I'm an inclusive person. Like that doesn't mean anything because your space actually has to be reflective of your goals. It's good to have ambition about what you want to see, but in order to make it happen, you have to kind of do it and then it will happen further.
Right. It's like, feeling included is what you're trying to go for. You're trying to make sure people feel included, and just being in the room doesn't always mean that you're actually feeling included, right? You've probably been to a meeting or party where like you don't know anybody, you just feel really out of place. Maybe it's a Zoom call with the founder of the company that you had been in before. It's not. It's a feeling of being comfortable in the space that you're in, and not just like being allowed to be there. And I feel like
you want to be represented by in space.
That's where I feel like a lot of gym owners fall short right now is, especially in the CrossFit space, there's a lot of talk about anti-racism and inclusivity, but I see gym owners saying like, we don't discriminate. Anybody can come in our doors and work out, but that doesn't mean that everybody's going to feel comfortable or actually included working out there. Right. So it's not just not being negative. Like it's actually a practice of making people feel included.
Yeah. I think about when I first started to work out in a small gym and all my coaches, the owner was male and there was only one other coach and he was male. And I felt like they didn't always kind of understand me or what I was doing or like how to speak to me. And then we got a female coach and I was just like, wow, she's so cool. She can do all these things. Like I want to do that like she can. And that's just on a really basic level. And I'm, being like women are represented in a lot of things. So imagine if you're a trans person or non-binary person or a Black person in your community where you're not represented in the athletes or the coaches,
right?
Like you're not going to feel like, motivated maybe to reflect that back. And maybe you won't even feel like you're truly welcome there.
Right. Yeah, like being inclusive takes effort. Like you have to like work at it as a coach, as a business owner, or even just as a fellow athlete to kind of make those people feel included. It's like, what are some of the things that you guys do at Solcana to like foster inclusivity? Like, what are some action steps that other gym owners right now, if they like want to be more inclusive, what do you think they could start with?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it's been a slow growth transformation. Even when we first opened, like I opened with the intention of being like, I wanted to be different than the space I had worked at. And I was like, I want to open a place that is built for people to feel strong, and particularly my own identity. I was like, I want a place where I feel like as a woman, I can be exceptional and not just, because I feel like a lot of women experience at like CrossFit style gyms is if they start to get good at something, like the male coaches seem like surprised almost.
Right.
And then they sort of use you like a tool, or well, look at her, she can do it. And then there's this weird feeling of like, sometimes I would squat heavy, and then all the male coaches in the gym would be like, wow. And then if I was taking a day light, they'd be like, come on, I know you can do more. And it felt like it was like using me as like a model for something that I didn't want to be a model for.
Sure.
And then when I was a coach and I would push my like women clients in a certain way, I got kickback from my male owner. Like, well, you're not encouraging them the right way. You're intimidating them. And I'm like, I think I would know, because I actually have connection and conversation with these women, and they're coming to my classes. So I feel like I understand them better. But so when I opened here, I was like, I want to be a place where women feel represented. And I can only, like, when you start as an owner, all you can do is really try to represent your own identities and invite those people in, and then work on inviting other people in who represent different identities, and then giving them a platform. Because like I wouldn't be where I am now, or where the gym is now, if I hadn't had people who joined, who were like, I'm raising my hand to be part of leadership here, and I represent these other identities, and I want to help bring in this type of community. Or like, and in the beginning, I spent a lot of time reaching out to different communities and being like, how can I get you involved? And at what price point does that mean for you? And, you know, finding people who I'm like, I'm interested in you. Can I help you become a coach? Like, how much, you know, are you able to afford for membership? Like, finding ways to make sure I can get people involved, even if they can't maybe pay the price that I was looking for, because I know that I would like to help amplify them.
Got it.
And not just like use them as like, there's a big difference, I think, between using someone for kind of fake representation and using somebody to, like, helping somebody elevate and get what they need. Because I see like a lot of gyms and businesses in general just like post pictures of people and say like, well, this person goes here. And that's not
look how inclusive we are.
Yeah, that's not really doing the job, because you're using them as just like a flag that you're waving, but you're not actually like giving them opportunities to do anything. I try to think about that all the time, and it can be tricky, because I have some athletes who are here so frequently that their pictures are on everything that I have pictures of. And I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure I don't use their picture every single time just because they're in a lot of photos, because I don't want them to feel like they're being used as like a representative of the entire gym based on the way that they look or anything like that.
So there's kind of a couple.
It was kind of a tangent there, but.
Yeah. So like inviting people, like actively going out into the community and trying to include people, inviting people to be part of what you're doing and part of your like leadership and everything. Like, it's an active practice being inclusive of. Like, it takes work. So just saying like my door is open is probably not getting the job done. It's not.
No, because you saying that, like, there's somebody else who's doing the active work. So like, having your doors open doesn't mean anyone is just going to walk in there.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be the first in your space. So like, nobody wants to be the first person that you're experimenting with diversity on.
Right.
And you know, it's not comfortable, and it's like awkward and can be painful. So I think being honest as a coach too, if you get someone to your space, like, for example, if you get someone to your space who is deaf, and that's the first time you've ever coached somebody who's deaf, like being honest with them and letting them know, like, you're my first athlete that I've ever had be this way. So I'm going to find ways for us to purposefully get feedback from you, so I can better your experience. And because I know I'm going to mess up with you as much as I'm going to try and work on it. And I want to make our place better for other people in the future. So like honesty is really helpful with that. Like you're my first person who's deaf, and I want to make sure I'm doing this right for you. But also I recognize like I'm going to fail, and here are the ways that you can let me know that I'm failing and how I can fix it.
Right. So you're recognizing that their experience is going to be different than everybody else in the gym, and addressing that up front, and then getting feedback back. So,
and that you don't know, just like you don't know, because you don't know what the experience is like. And
exactly.
you can try to, you know, be in their shoes. Like I remember, you know, when we had a client here who was blind, and my first client who was blind, and I kind of said the same thing. I was like, I don't know what that experience is like. I don't really know what you will feel like your limitations are. And I just want to constantly keep in communication about what that is. And then, you know, a couple of the coaches and I got together and we did a workout and blindfolded. And it's like, that was interesting and helpful, but it doesn't really tell us about this person's experience. And it's like, okay, good. We got ourselves in their shoes for like a minute, but not really, because we don't have any understanding of how it means to function through the world. So you can't just like dress it up and then think you've got it. You have to ask the person for constant feedback, and you have to genuinely be open to the feedback.
Right. Exactly.
And like let people know, okay, that's not going to work. Like we can't do that. I'm going to try, but I'm not sure if I can accomplish it. Or like, okay, yes, I hear you, and this is the timeline it's going to take for me to implement that.
Right. You can't be dismissive of what people are telling you their experiences in your gym.
Right. It can be really simple too. Like, for example, we've had some people here who are like, you know, I'm neurodiverse, and so it's hard for me sometimes to be in a space where like music is really loud, and it would be helpful if there was earplugs available. Okay, like that's a really easy fix.
Yeah.
And it's something we can like purchase and set out, and also make people know like this is what these are for. So it can be like little things like that, but I think a lot of it is just constantly asking, and without but there's also like this balance you want to play. You want to ask, but you don't want to constantly bother the person, because they also just want to exist in the space.
Right.
So like having kind of explicit check-ins where you're like, hey, I'm emailing you particularly about this. Respond at your own time. Right. And if you don't want to respond about it, like let me know, and I'll just continue to kind of go with the feedback that you give.
Right. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
We're actively inviting people in, making sure we're staying engaged and kind of helping them like be part of the community, and making sure their experience is the best that it can be, and kind of meeting them what they're at with some of those things, and not dismissing, actually listening to people. So again, like the point is here, like it takes some work to do this.
Yeah.
And we started talking a little bit about kind of like representation and like your media and content and everything too. So I do think that is important, right? Without like with the right intention behind it and in a genuine way, like I do think that is important too. At least that's something that a lot of my folks at my gym have told me. So, you know, my membership is about 80% women right now, which again, like we've had like myself and Brian are only two coaches. We now have a female coach kind of getting on board and everything, but a big piece of why that is, right? Because that's not the norm for like a fitness space. I would say, at least not in like the CrossFit space.
Yeah. Oh, I do think that it is, I mean, 80% for sure, maybe it's not the norm, but I do think like I would guess most small community gyms have over 50%.
Yeah. 40 is a pretty typical mix, I would say. We really like skew heavily towards women, and a big part of that is like, right, they feel like you look across all of our social media, like we're not just showing the best athletes, we're not just showing like the heaviest lifters or like, you know, whatever, like we're showing everybody getting their personal best. Even that's like, all right, they used a regular barbell instead of a PVC for the first time. So that's been a piece of it that's been helpful for us in making, at least in this instance, making women feel more comfortable, is like just showing wins for everybody. So it's not just about the, you know, the shirtless, sweaty guy deadlifting 500 pounds that you tend to see a lot. So, and you know,
and I think like being mindful of not featuring your coaches very frequently in terms of like as representative of an athlete. Like if you're going to post about a coach, like explicitly say, this is a coach.
Yeah.
And they're working on some coaching skill or some skill personal to them. Because I do see a lot of other gyms will post a lot of pictures of their coaches or their like high level athletes, as if they were just their regular run of the mill athlete. And it's like, that's not true. And that's not true.
Yeah. And I think, and part of the thing you have to think about as a gym owner too, is like, being inclusive is important, but you have to do it in a way that actually makes sense for like who you can best serve. Because you can't be everything to everybody all at once, right? In terms of like who you work best with. Like every kind of gym owner and coach kind of has their kind of own skill set. Like some gyms are great with beginners. Like that's kind of who we cater to, is like beginners, people are finding fitness for the first time. Like the vast majority of our people have never done a competition, never will. But there's gyms that are kind of the opposite. Like they kind of cater more towards that top end athlete too. So like you can't try and be everything to everybody all at once.
Right.
I think that's a way to just water everything down at your gym. But like within that kind of group that you serve, like how can you build some like real diversity and difference of experience within that thing. So like that's the thing you have to remember too, is like inclusivity doesn't have to necessarily mean trying to cater to literally every person's every need.
And you won't, and that's important to know where you are limited. Like I've had people come here and they're like, I want to compete when regionals existed. I want to compete at regionals. And I was like, this isn't the gym for you.
Nope.
Because I don't have the desire to build you a special, like, competition programming is probably not something I'm ever going to invest in. I shouldn't say never, because it might be something that happens, but like, it's probably not something I'm ever going to invest heavily in curating, because it's not something I really want to be doing. It's not who my people are. It doesn't, it represents maybe 1% of people here. So those people can find that community elsewhere. There are gyms built for that.
Yeah. And that's the hard part too. Like we're sitting here talking, like the whole point of this is about inclusivity, but sometimes like you have to say no to some people too. And it's not about like who they are as a person necessarily. Like sometimes it's just about what their goals are and everything too.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there are already plenty of gyms.
Owner, especially at first, like we're a year old. It's scary for me to say no to people like after I have the initial meeting and like they tell me their goals, be like, actually I think this gym down the street is probably gonna be a much better fit for you. Like that's not easy to do. But at the end of the day, like being honest with that person can help like keep the rest of the mission going, where if I had taken them in, it might just end up pushing out a lot of what you've tried to build. So I don't know, it's a hard balance.
Yeah, and it drains your energy as an owner to try to satisfy somebody in a way that doesn't really fit you.
Yeah.
So like there are so many gyms in the Twin Cities, and every community that like, finding what your voice is and then just honing that voice is going to do more to affect the people that can be part of your thing. And it will let other people know, like, we raise the flag of like, this is who we are. And so if it doesn't fit for you, like go somewhere. I mean, it might be good. Like genuinely, I don't think if somebody was like, I don't think if somebody was very conservative and they looked at our website or they talked to us, like, I don't think that they would necessarily find us to be a good fit. And that's okay, that I can't be inclusive to everybody. If they came here and they were a member, we would be kind and like give them space and you know what I mean? But it's like on the surface, we're not advertising ourselves as that type of facility.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to find that balance. You can't be everything to everybody, but within your corner of what you're looking to build, like how can you have a fully fleshed out, like healthy amount of diversity within that is going to help everybody grow and people feel represented and included. And
and sometimes being specificity in who you are will actually bring you closer to that than being a generalist about like, oh, we do everything for everybody, because it's not true. And you're not going to be able to follow through on that.
Obstacle course racing, a running class, like sometimes you see that, I'm like, I don't even know like what we're trying to go after here. But
exactly.
So I guess like if you're a gym owner or a coach or somebody who is looking to be kind of more inclusive, like, I mean, you got to start by kind of like thinking through your vision, like what is your vision for your gym, and then actively inviting people into that space who can help you grow that and be
and paying them money.
Right. Oh, for sure. Like if we're talking about coaches and leadership and everything too. But.
And even if you're talking about clients who you like use their labor to help you get better,
right.
like finding ways to compensate them, whether that's through free or reduced membership or through actually paying them. Like, you know, for our scholarship program, like I don't actually really touch that anymore. But I have like a committee of people that do it because I'm a white person. And like, if I'm going to have a scholarship that's explicitly directed towards non-white people, then it's important that I'm not the one reading and evaluating their applications. So I just do the logistical organizing as the owner. Like I run the ad, I like collect all of the information, I organize it, and then I give it to the committee and then pay those people to come up with it. And some of those people are coaches and some of them are athletes.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure that helps them feel a lot more invested in the community and kind of just like helps continue to just keep people feeling like important and part of the crew, you know?
Yeah. And like they're doing work for you. So, you know, like if you're going to use an example athlete to talk to them about how can I make the space better for other people like you, then finding a way for them to get paid for that is really helpful. And some people will say, don't pay me, I want to just help. But like to offer the payment first and rather than expecting free work is really important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice. So you have any other advice for gym owners or coaches who are just looking to be more inclusive? Like what would be the very first thing you'd tell someone to do if you're like, okay, I realize I just have like a very like super homogenous, I feel like I'm just, you know, given my neighborhood and the demographics, like I'm just not reaching the people that I want to be reaching right now. Like what would be kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. Like first, find an organization nearby you that's doing better work than you are and find a way to connect with them. Like hire them for a training or go there and learn about their community and how you can help and participate. Like volunteer to run some free classes for some communities that you're interested in working with, and then find out like what are the obstacles for that community to be entering a space like yours. Is it because you're an all white space? Is it because people don't see the type of fitnesses you do as inviting? Is it because like, what is the reason, you know, what is making it difficult now? And then like voluntarily give up some of your power. Like find somebody who can do some of the work that you're doing and then pay them to do that work instead of you, and let them represent you and make it just so it's not only you. Because I think, you know, as small businesses, the temptation is just to be the only person who does everything and like kind of gets all the credit, but that should, you know, that's not really how it works if you want to make sure your space is equal.
Nice. All right. So that's good. I've accomplished the first step because I'm talking to you and you're way better at this than I am. And it's another thing as a small business owner, you don't want to tend to admit that there's things that you're missing. And it's just like, you know, everybody has their own kind of set of superpowers, and sometimes you're going to have blind spots and you got to find people who can help you take advantage of, like fix those. Right?
Yeah. And it's not even like who can help you. It's like, they just have a different level of sight than you do. And so you still have your blind spots that you're working on, and they're not filling in the blind spots. They're like leading a whole other, they're like just able to see things that you'll never see. And so they can just take you forward and come up with ideas that you could never come up with and then execute them.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I do think that's helpful. And then I think like your clients have probably lots of ideas for how you can better represent them. And then, you know, finding ways to connect with other communities that have like identities that you're missing, that you're not really serving, and figuring out like what exactly are they looking for to best be served. And sometimes you can provide it and sometimes you can't.
Right. Exactly. Like sometimes you'll do the work and investigate it and you're like, well, this might not actually be the fit for our gym, but at least you know, and you tried, and most people will appreciate that.
Yeah. And even if someone in your community puts something together and it doesn't work, like you support it the best you can, and maybe it doesn't work, and you can identify what didn't work and maybe try it again and differently in the future. It's like a lot of experimenting and trying things out, leaning into them, and then learning from them if they fail, or in the ways that they fail.
You can't be afraid to fail and try on this stuff, because you probably will, right?
Right.
Fail at stuff all the time as a business owner.
Yeah. And I feel like as like athletes, you know, we might naturally be attuned to what our weaknesses are, but I don't know if necessarily as owners, people are attuned to that. Like knowing what their weaknesses are in terms of as a community leader, because it's different. Being a business owner is different than being a community leader. That's a different thing. So I think I've met a lot of business owners who struggle to lead their community because they don't take critique well, or they think that their voice shouldn't matter as much as it does, or you know, they get angry when people have feedback, and you know, those are all natural feelings, but to figure out how you can work through them and with them, and what does it look like to accept change and make change in your community.
It's like one of the worst like features of the human race is how bad we are at getting called out at stuff. Like it's just the defensive response, and it's something as a community leader you have to fight really hard to.
I mean, just find your people who you can vent to about it. You know, like when something happens, you just, maybe it's a couple of your coaches or your friends or family, you just vent it out, get it out, so you don't get defensive at it towards the people that are asking you for that change.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And like, obviously, you know, doing a lot of your own work too, reading, writing, listening to people who have more knowledge and understanding than you do, hiring people to help you, doing trainings, like finding where your shortcomings are, so you know actually what to address.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, gym owners, like if you're like not sure where to start, there are people you can hire that will tell you and look into your business and your community and tell you, here's what I think you need to do, and here's how to change your hiring practices and like every aspect of your business. So you don't have to start from scratch. But don't just like go to your members, whatever, and ask them like, hey, tell me what to do. Like donate all this free time. Like find someone who can help you and pay them for their professional services. Especially if you're like, I don't have the time to like come up with this plan from square one. Like I know time and everything is it's always like lacking as a but like there's ways around that. So if you want this work to be done, it's important to you, like there's ways to do it.
And I think with like, in terms of the community leadership piece, like I've seen a lot of owners kind of posturing as the expert in community, but the reality is like that makes you that's more leaning towards cult leader. If you're like, I'm the expert in how communities are run, and I'm the expert and I'm the one person that is meant to be the leader here. And I feel like really actually valuable leadership is thinking of yourself as the center of the team. Sorry, there's like a truck driving by. I don't know if you hear that. Thinking yourself as like a piece of the team rather than thinking of yourself as the top of the team, because that way, you know, your entire community doesn't function on your failures and your weaknesses. Because if you're like gonna run a gym as a charismatic leader, it shows hard, and it makes you difficult to work with, and it makes your clients then either they worship you because that's the way you want them to communicate with you, is through a worshiping kind of subservient community style.
I'm here because of this person at the gym, not anything else.
And then when people like your athletes or coaches leave, what I've seen is that those kind of coaches will turn the tables, like, well, it's that person is this, and this, and they're actually the one in the wrong. And it doesn't really lend itself well to truly building a place where people feel like they have some footing. They just feel like they're being subjected to your program. And some people like that, and you will get clients that way. But will you feel like you're really building a place that's like a cooperative? Probably not.
And that's a good reminder for like the athletes, people who are like maybe looking for gyms or who are currently working out at a community gym. Like there's a lot of different, like we have a huge fitness community in the Twin Cities, which is awesome. And there's really like something for everybody out there. Like if you're not happy where you're at, like try something else. Like you don't have to just like dread showing up or feel like you're on the sidelines or like you don't have a voice, because there are places that you will, right? Like especially, Hannah and I, we're not CrossFit affiliates anymore, but like not every CrossFit affiliate is the same. Not every, community fitness gym or whatever is the same. Like there's drastically different kind of goals behind the community and leadership styles and fitness styles and everything within there. So like, yeah, if like, don't be afraid.
If you don't like the leadership at your place, then you can go somewhere else. And there's other styles.
But it's scary. Like people like kind of what they know. And even if what they know, like, isn't like that great, like it's fine. Like I know it can be scary to look out there, but yeah, you should be able to find a place to exercise that like you feel like really truly comfortable. Like you can just be yourself, not have to put on a show. Like you're just there to do your thing, and that's out there, and that means different things for everybody. So just remember that you should feel included at the place that you work out, and if you're not,
definitely
talk to your leadership. If they don't care, find a different
go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else. Like your dollars speak, right? That's the way that you get these people to listen and take this stuff seriously is by putting where your money, where your mouth is. So anyway, I know you've got to go coach in a minute here, but thanks so much for chatting through this stuff. Hopefully I'll find some value from this out there, whoever's watching this. Feel free to reach out to Hannah or myself if you have more questions about this. Right, we're learning as we go on all this stuff all the time too.
That's right.
Very much. I mean, I know I'm definitely not the expert on this, and I look to Hannah for this. Hannah looks to somebody up, and there's always somebody kind of
right, exactly
on this stuff who's helping you fill in the blanks. So cool. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.